Who will be the Blue Jays' second baseman this season?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. So, me and you go back and forth constantly since all of the signings in the off season, or maybe I shouldn't say all the signings, I should say. There wasn't a ton and they weren't unbelievable. But who is going to be this Blue Jays team's second baseman? We broke it down. We think there's maybe a solid 5 options. Oh, and by the way, if you made it to this video after the last one, good on you. Thanks for stopping by. So Carter, we've got a couple options. I'll give you one, and then I'll do one. We'll sort of list their stats off so they know, and then we'll have a little bit of a healthy debate here.
Sure. So I'm just going to start with a couple people that I left off this list for specific reasons. 2 of them are in the minors right now, so I don't really think it would be worthwhile talking to them. One of them is Elvis Martinez. Maybe we do see him get some service time throughout the year, but right away, probably not. There's not really a spot for him right now. There's no point of starting his major league clock right away, especially when you have this many options otherwise starting at second base. And the other one I have is actually Ernie Clement, because he did play a lot of shortstop last year. He had great success offensively and filled in perfectly for Bissitt. But again, he's not on. He is on the 40-man. But he does have some options going back down to AAA. So again, I don't think they're going to give him this job. Maybe if he completely pops off in spring training, it is a possibility. But these 5 guys I have over him for sure. So I will go into this, and I'm going to start with the guy that probably most fans think will lead the charge for this second base spot, and that is Cavan Biggio. So Cavan Biggio, left-handed hitter, played 111 games last season. 9 home runs, 40 RBIs, a 235 average, 26% strikeout percentage, a 710 OPS, and a 103 weighted runs created plus. So do you want me to kind of give them arguments as to why I think Cavan Biggio should start, or should we just give them a list first?
I think we'll give them all the options, and then we'll cruise into actually our thought process and who we think personally.
Yeah, so just read off the stats, whoever you decide to go with here. The next one.
So I'm going to go with a guy that probably had the second most time at second base, and that's Santiago Espinal. He had 254 plate appearances. His WAR was a .5, 25 RBIs, 36 strikeouts, 2 home runs, 248 batting average, a 335 slugging percentage, and a 644 OPS.
Yeah, I mean, that's not too bad. We'll get into the third person here. So that is Eduardo Escobar. So Eduardo Escobar, coming off of a year where he did not play great last season, he hit 226 with 65 hits, 6 home runs, 31 RBIs, and a 613 OPS. So it's tough to base him off of just last season because he had a great 2022. But I'll let you get into this fourth one here.
So my fourth one is IKF, 361 plate appearances, a .1 WAR, 37 RBI, 70 strikeouts, 6 home runs, 242 batting average, 340 slugging percentage, and a 646 OPS.
Yeah, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is one of those guys that great defensively, but probably not going to do too much offensively. I think he's career about 255, 260 hitter.
So and realistically, he's going to be our third baseman.
Yeah, exactly. He is a defensive specialist, hopefully going to take over for Matt Chapman, but he might get some reps also at second base. So the last guy we have here is a fan favorite and one of our favorites on this podcast, Davis Schneider. So Davis Schneider didn't have a lot of games played, only played 35, had 8 home runs, 20 RBIs. His strikeout percentage was 30.5, so that's not great. A slugging of 603. And then I'm just trying to find his average here.
His average?
276 is his average.
And he's got an OPS of 1,008.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Obviously, those stats are a little bit skewed from his unbelievable historic start. And he did fall off a little bit at the end of the year. But I mean, not a lot of people can say that they broke 1 million rookie records when they entered the MLB.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, there is a good argument for David Schneider. I fully agree with that. It's just that when it comes to him, we did see him have that huge, dramatic, over the top start that we probably will never see again as Blue Jays fans. But the downside of that is the fact that he had such a big curve at the end of the year where he really didn't play well. What did he go 1 for 55?
It was, I don't know if it was that bad.
It wasn't
but
that drastic, but it wasn't good.
It was pretty bad. That was, David Schneider, he said it himself. He said that he was kind of struggling to hit the high fastball at the end of the season. And hopefully he did end up working on that at the end of the season and as well as the entire offseason. So I'm going to start with the first guy I brought up, and that is Cavan Biggio. And I think that is going to be the fan favorite for who people want starting at second base because of the insane year he had at the end of the year by his standards. We're obviously not unbelievable by MLB standards. But I'm going to go over this and split it with his first half of the season and his second half of the season. So in his first half, he hit 197 with 28 hits, 7 home runs, a 31 K percentage for a guy like Cavan Biggio with a great eye. That was one thing that was very bad for him and very drastic to his stat line because he was a guy that was getting on base constantly before. And if he's going to be striking out that often, that is going to hit his on base percentage quite a bit. So then his OPS was 645, and then he had a weighted runs created plus of 77. So a below average hitter, obviously, did not put the ball in play often, striking out a ton, did not make good contact throughout the year. And I'm not sure what it was. He hasn't really gone public with what he switched or what happened over the All-Star break, but he was a different man in the second half of the season. So he had a 272 average, 40 hits, 2 home runs, 21.9 strikeout percentage that dropped almost 10%, an OPS of 765, and a weighted runs created plus of 124. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm on the Cavan Biggio train as well. I'm not going to lean into who I fully believe yet. I won't lie. I'll save that sort of for the end after we sort of go over everybody. But Cavan Biggio is a defensive great option as well as being able to, be that guy, which we talk about quite a bit, is hitting for average. If he's a guy that can get on base and let the big guy swing the bat and drive him in, that's what we need. And I think he's so good at getting on base. He's got a pretty good eye. Besides the first half of the season, he really showed what we can do in the second half. So hopefully Cavan Biggio can, stay with that. It doesn't need to be that insane, but a guy that can get on base. He's not going to be hitting at the top of the order. So just a guy that can get on base and, put us in a position to earn some runs here.
Yeah, a few bonuses to Cavan Biggio is he is a left-handed bat. The Blue Jays don't really have a lot of those right now. So that gives him a huge advantage. And one thing that I noticed, especially last season in the second half, is he looked unbelievable defensively. He was diving all over the field. Seemed like he was making every play. I remember on August 7th, he hit a home run. I think it was against the Guardians, but I might be mixing that up because he had a really good double play against the Guardians as well. And yeah, he was just, I think it was a ground ball to third base. He was playing third base that game. Backhanded grab, then just take the guy out at third and just fires a strike over to first base.
Yeah, it was a beautiful play. I think it was on like the top 10s for a while there, hey, too.
Oh, yeah, it was.
It was an excellent play. It might have been even at when they did like the top 100 plays of the year for the MLB or whatever. It was pretty high, and it was a great play defensively. So I'm on board with Cavan Biggio big time because the defense, right, is so big, and if he's also a guy that's going to hit for the average and play that bottom of the third, I'm totally fine with that for the position that he puts us in.
No, and I just remembered that play was against Texas. Actually, the Guardians play I'm thinking of is when he was at second base and he did unassisted double play by himself. He just tagged the guy that was running from first to second and then hustled over to first and got the out as well for Chris Bassitt. So a guy that if he can play good in the field, not really historically a good fielder, I think this spot is his to lose.
I'm 100% with you. I think going into this spring training and even into the start of the year, I don't know if it's going to be that much of a debate that this is his spot unless he, like you said, loses it.
So then we're going to go into IKF. There's not really a ton to say about IKF. I think he's going to be getting a lot of the third base reps. The best fielder we have, though, so I think that's just another reason why we should probably have him at third base. Compared to all these 5 that we brought up, he's definitely the best fielder. The hitting stats aren't there. It's going to be situational with IKF. I think he's going to be one of those guys that probably starts a game. And then once you get to the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, once there's a big spot in the game, he's probably going to get pinch hit for by guys like Daniel Vogelback, maybe Eduardo Escobar, Justin Turner if he's not playing, a catcher, either Jano or Kirk. One of those guys. He'll provide you solid defense. He's not going to hurt you, but he's also not going to go out and hit 25 home runs in the season.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. I think IKF is what sort of we needed trying to replace Matt Chapman. I mean, we weren't going to replace Matt Chapman defensively. Matt Chapman is in an own realm of himself, but IKF is a very, very good second option defensively. It's just, the offense obviously hurts. Maybe he fixed some stuff in the offseason. We don't know. We're, praying that hopefully Saturday we can see what he can do out there. I'm not sure. Have they released if he's going to be playing any games yet? Have they released anything like that?
I think it's kind of just a wait and see sort of thing. The only thing they've said about these spring training performances is they actually announced who's going to start that game, but we'll get into that in our spring training segment of this episode. So I'm just going to take this over to Eduardo Escobar. So obviously last year not playing very well, only a 66 rated runs curated plus out of the average being 100. So that's really bad. He did struggle with a few injuries, obviously got traded, didn't play on the same team throughout the entire year. And he is a career 253 hitter. He's a switch hitter. So again, he's got that kind of Cavan Biggio-esque style where he can hit from the right or left side of the plate. But he is a way better hitter on the right side of the plate when he is playing against left-handed pitching. On the right side of the plate last season, he had 116 plate appearances, 31 hits, 16 RBIs, hit 284, and had a 23.3 strikeout rate with a 769 OPS. So those numbers are pretty good. I mean, they're better than pretty much every other player we're talking about's numbers, other than David Schneider for a little bit there. A guy that could be a major bounce back candidate. He had 20 home runs in 2022. The only thing with him is that he is a horrible defender. He has no range. His arm's not very good. I think that's why I kind of wouldn't mind seeing him at second base, because I can see him having kind of this platoon role, or maybe he gets some starts at third, maybe he gets starts at second. He's going to be all over the place. And this is a guy that might be able to come in for a guy like IKF later in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they probably will use him on that bench role as well, that they can pull him off in a big situation against, did you say from the right side of the plate?
Left-handed pitching, he's good against.
Left-handed, yeah. So against those lefties, right, which is could be huge, right? If you need a big swing and maybe IKF or Cavan Biggio's up, that you can throw them in there and maybe situational, right? A lot of these guys, that's why we're having this conversation, because a lot of this stuff can be used situationally with 5 guys that realistically could be playing second, third, whatever you need them to. So it is going to be interesting to see how he gets used as well.
And that is going to take us into Santiago Espinal. With this guy, he's gotten a lot of flack from Blue Jays fans. Sort of it's rightfully so in some sense. But I think with Santiago Espinal, we kind of have to give him the same benefit of the doubt we give guys like David Schneider, who didn't really get chances to play that often. And we say it all the time. It's very hard to be successful, pretty much impossible, if you're only playing 1 to 2 times a week. If he's not getting consistent at bats, he's not going to play good. Obviously, in 2022, he had a pretty good season. MLB All-Star. I mean, I don't know if that even means anything. He did have a good season. I don't know if it was All-Star worthy, but I mean, yeah, he'll always have that on his career timeline. With Espinal, he's an okay fielder. He's okay at hitting. He's kind of average at everything. So that's the only thing. For a lot of these guys, they do have specific situations where they can be successful. Santiago Espinal, compared to the rest of these guys, doesn't really have that, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's not a breakout at one specific part of the game, right? He's okay at everything. Maybe that gives him the jack of all trades effect, where okay, we can use this guy wherever, so we're going to use him wherever, right? And use him as that platoon. So we'll sort of see what he does this season, where they put him, what they want him to do. But since we've gone over the 5 guys, we still
need David Schneider a little bit here.
Oh, okay.
So you want to do.
Okay. So David Schneider, I'll start. One of my favorite guys to watch on the field. He brings a little bit more of electric energy than the rest of these guys. Like, he's a little bit more of he's got that superstar effect a little bit. He's not a superstar, but he's got that like effect where when he comes to the plate, you're like, this guy, you never really know what he's going to do. And that just comes off of the start that he had last season. And if he can somehow get back to that form and be even half of as electric as he was, I think he's going to easily find himself a spot on this roster all the time.
Well, I think there's no question that Davis Schneider has the highest upside out of all of these players.
Yeah.
Especially when you see what he did in August. I mean, 57 plate appearances, 20 hits, 6 home runs, 14 RBIs, 1,420 OPS. But then September and October is where he started to struggle a little bit. He had 84 plate appearances, 12 hits, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 28 Ks to 12 walks. I thought that was interesting. And an average of 174. Yeah. Not great. An OPS of 727. And then you obviously went over his full season stats. One thing with Davis Schneider is that there's been a lot of talks about him starting in left field and platooning in left field. So I think there literally is no other reason or no other option to put in the field other than Davis Schneider, unless you want to throw Nathan Lucas out there, which I'm not going to get behind. I think Davis Schneider might be in the field a lot this offseason, and that's why I'm not going to have him at second base. But speaking of that, we're going to get into our rankings here. So I'm going to let you go first. Who do you think is the least likely to start at second base out of the 5 we named?
Before we get into that, I do want to take a quick pause here because we do have some sponsors today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. It is the fast, easy way to get tickets to so many different events. Basketball, baseball, hockey, concerts, whatever you want to get to. Game Time can get you those seats. They have this really cool feature where it shows you if it's green or dark green or red. It'll show you how well priced your seat is. So it's awesome. We were 4 rows up from the glass. I was talking about this at the Jets game. It gave us the look. It's like a first see at your seat. So you can actually see the view from your seat. It's absolutely amazing. So we knew, okay, we weren't too far in the corner that we were going to miss too much, right? And that's big too. I want to know where I'm sitting. Is there a pillar in my way? Am I sitting, am I too far up? Am I too far left? Am I not going to catch the whole play? So it's fantastic. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts, which is huge too. Maybe you're coming off of work and you're like, oh, I've missed 10 minutes or 5 minutes of this opening hockey game, but I can get there. So I'm going to purchase a ticket right now. I'm like 2 minutes away. Perfect. You're there. You can get your ticket still. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on all of your sporting events, comedy, even theater, whatever you want. With zone deals, you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big time savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always have the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you up to 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Holy, I was talking super fast. Like, put me in like a rap video or something. That was insane. I felt like I couldn't. My mouth just wouldn't stop moving. It's probably
you might have a future career as being an auctioneer. They would get maybe on some Storage Wars. I mean, that would be interesting.
That'd be cool. I love that show.
All right, so we're going to get right back into these second basemen here. So we're going to start with just your number 5 guy, the guy you think is least likely to get playing time, or maybe just least likely to start at second base this season.
Least likely to start at second base, I'm going with Eduardo Escobar. Just for the simple fact that I think this is going to be, at best for him this season, is going to be a roll off the bench. I think he's going to be playing in the minors a little bit. He might get some bench time. I don't think this is a full-time option whatsoever for the Jays right now.
See, that's interesting because I actually had Santiago Espinal as the least likely. And the reasoning is I think he's going to get traded. I think this room is too crowded right now. They're going to have to make a move. IKF's getting paid too much. They have Eduardo Escobar on a minor league deal, so there's really no risk there. And then Davis Schneider and Biggio are going to be tougher pieces to trade. So if they can even get maybe a reliever, a prospect, something for Santiago Espinal, maybe they package him with somebody. There's something there. But just like we said, Espinal isn't great at anything, but he's definitely useful, just not on this Blue Jays team. So I think they could be a trade in the future to actually get him some playing time.
You know what? I didn't take into consideration the trade. I think that's not a bad idea because that is the talk of the Blue Jays right now. Sort of everywhere is that everybody's sort of thinking, okay, he's going to be probably packaged for a trade either, partway through the season, the deadline, whatever it's going to be, he's going to be a part of that package.
All right, so that's going to take us into the fourth one, and I'm going to give it back to you. Who is your fourth ranked second baseman?
My fourth ranked second baseman will be IKF because I think he is going to get the most playing time at third base. So the odds of him ever having to go to second with guys like Cavan, Schneid's, Espy, whatever it is, we have so many guys that can play that position where not as many can be successful at third base and as good of a defender as IKF is.
I actually have that exact thing for pretty much the exact same reason. At third base, your only other options are really Justin Turner and then Eduardo Escobar. I already said Eduardo Escobar is not a great fielder. Justin Turner is 39, so he's probably going to just be DHing most of the year. You don't want to burn his energy in the field. And then just IKF is a way better fielder than him, too. The risk is just not worth the benefit, in my opinion, for that. So going into my number three, that is where I do have Eduardo Escobar. I think his offensive upside is what's going to help him out in this situation. And I think instead of playing him at third, where he's a little bit more of a liability, I think second base, he can kind of get away with a little bit more. Obviously, his arm doesn't matter as much at second. Maybe the range comes more into play there. But again, it might be situational. We maybe have a team that has a lot of right-handed hitters, and they're not necessarily hitting to that second base role as much. So that's why I have Eduardo Escobar as my number three guy for there.
My number three is Santiago Espinal for the fact that I don't think he's going to be a full-time guy. He's going to come off the bench a little bit. He's going to, not play every game. And like you said, I mean, the trade thing's huge. And honestly, if we were taking that into consideration, it's a very good chance that he is packaged if a trade does make its way to the Jays.
All right, and that takes us to number two. And I have a feeling that our lists are going to be the same for this, but we will see. And I have Davis Schneider as number two on my list. I think that he might actually be better this season than Cavan Biggio, but I think there is more of a need for him in left field. He has been putting in a lot of offseason work in left field, and Kevin Kiermaier is getting older. Dalton Varsho, I mean, he has played pretty much every game, but Davis Schneider is going to be the guy that if anyone needs a rest, George Springer needs a rest, Kiermaier, Varsho, he's going to be slotted in right in that left field spot. Varsho will probably kick over to center field, and then maybe Kiermaier probably playing center field most of the time, so Varsho is kind of going to be all over the place. I see Davis Schneider having a very similar role to what Whit Merrifield did last year. Kind of throw him wherever you need him. One of those things. Maybe we see Schneider in right field a little bit more as well, because left field and right field, there's not too much of a difference there. Just obviously the side walls. Davis Schneider offensively I think it's going to be better than Cavan Biggio, and I think it's really going to depend on just who is the hot hand at the time, and we'll see what happens with that second base position.
I 100% agree with you. I think that's you pretty much summed it up perfectly. Davis Schneider is the guy that you can put almost anywhere, and he's going to play it decent enough, right? He's going to be all right in the field. He can make those plays. He can. I think, like you said, his bat is going to be better than Cavan. But going into my number one spot, obviously, we both have Cavan Biggio, and for the same fact that he can make electric plays defensively, and he does hit for that average, and if he can continue to hit for average like that, and get on base setup, he knows his role. He's one of those guys that just knows his role. He knows what he has to do. And if he can do that again this year, I don't think it's a question in anybody's mind that he's going to be the second baseman for this Blue Jays squad.
It's huge to have a left-handed bat in your corner and a guy that was so electric there in the second half of the season. Why would you want to switch up with that? All the guys in the clubhouse say he's a great guy as well, a guy that they want to keep around. And Cavan Biggio was finally starting to break out a little bit. Maybe we saw some spotlights of that last season. Hopefully he can continue that. But I think in totality of this second base role, I don't think there is really going to be a single guy that's going to take over the second base spot. I think it's going to be changing by far the most consistently out of any position on the Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah. I can see, honestly, all four of the five guys we named for me. I don't think Espinal is going to be getting a lot of playing time, but I can see IKF getting some spots there. I can see Eduardo Escobar, maybe even Justin Turner. I didn't really have him in this, but that's another option that you can have at second base. There is a ton of different situations that can be flipped around with this. Obviously, the left-handed, right-handed bats, fielding, who's better defensively, who's faster. There's so many different situations that could have come across the second base position. So I think there isn't going to be a lot of structure to this second base. It's going to be a day by day basis and just kind of a go with the flow, ride the hot hand.
I 100% agree that you hit the nail on the head when you said that this position is going to be the most volatile, the most volatile. It's going to be changing. It's going to be switching up. Like the ride in the hot hand is huge. We've talked about that a ton this offseason, and in playing towards that, that's what we sort of hammered John Schneider for, is not playing the hot hand when it comes to that, right? So I would love to see them do that more often. If Cavan's having a great time over there and he's playing really well, go with him. If Schneids is playing unbelievable and you want him there and you need his bat in the lineup, then you got to use him, right? But before we go any further, I did want to send it over to you because there is some big stuff in sports going on right now.
Yeah, like that is a great opportunity for you guys to check out our 24/7 streaming channel. We always hammer it into your guys' heads because it's such a great opportunity. We don't want you guys to miss out on this experience. Whether you guys are into college sports, basketball, hockey, whatever it is, the 24/7 streaming channel will cover it. So just go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to our first ever national 24/7 streaming channel.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Today, I put down a whole bunch of money on the NHL, and it was fantastic. I think I won one of them, lost one, but I covered my overall cost, so it was electric. It's great when that happens and you actually don't lose money on the day. I'm sort of been up and down lately, but I tried, like I said yesterday, to use their pre-built parlays, and it paid off for me. So go to FanDuel, make sure that you use them for all your betting needs. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So we have gone over who we think is going to play second base. And, a little bit of that is waiting to see what happens over spring training and who we see where and what sort of cool wrinkles can we see. So we did find a couple interesting things just going on in spring training. We want to just keep you up to date on stuff that we see if we're scrolling Twitter, if we're reading articles. It's pretty much what we do every day anyways. If I'm on my phone, it's going to be just reading articles, looking at Twitter. I'm huge on my Twitter, so if I see anything interesting, I'm looking at that. My Twitter's Braden5 Wasco. I'm pretty active. Carter First 2, he's going to be getting more active. Hopefully retweeting my stuff.
We're just waiting for spring training. It's right around the corner. We're 3 days away. We'll get after it. I'm excited for Saturday against the Phillies.
We're getting there. I did find something pretty interesting. A little bit sort of off the wall, but like sort of from left field. But I saw R.A. Dickey at spring training. How interesting is that?
Yeah, and guess who he's there with? Edwin and Encarnacion. So two former Blue Jays, obviously great at what they did. R.A. Dickey's one of the best knuckleball pitchers to ever do it. And Edwin is just had so many good memories with the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, the walk-offs in his playoffs in 2015, 2016. Just a great guy, a guy that was successful in the MLB for a very long time with the Jays, the Guardians, so many different teams. So having these guys at spring training to help a team that did struggle hitting, especially for Edwin, and then R.A. Dickey with guys adding new pitches, he can just offer a different perspective for things that he sees and things that he can point out to help the guys improve over spring training.
It is cool to see R.A. Dickey there because that guy saw the game differently, right? He saw how to pitch differently. He wasn't the most conventional pitcher out there. So maybe he's just adding in a little pieces that these guys can pick up on, and maybe it helps them, add a couple strikeouts, finding different wrinkles to their pitches. It's going to be I think it's pretty cool that he's there, giving whatever input he can.
Absolutely. So another thing that I have is a quote from Chris Bassitt, and he says that the Toronto Blue Jays have 7 MLB-ready starters. So he goes on to say, if Ricky and Francis need to start for us this year and they become number ones, I don't think anyone would be shocked. As crazy as that is, that's how good of stuff they have. That's how mature they are. That is great praise from a very established pitcher in the MLB, saying that they could turn into number ones. Obviously, Ricky Tiedemann is starting to get some hype. One of the best left-handed pitching prospects in the MLB. And Bowden Francis starting to stir up a little bit of commotion here. People are starting to jump on the Bowden Francis train. I've been there for the last year, obviously watching him play last year. I really got excited for him. So do you see a situation where maybe we don't see Alec Manoah and Yusei Kikuchi maybe pitching? Like, who would be the two guys that would go down?
To be honest with you, I'm honestly thinking that this is going to be a bounce back year for Alec Manoah. We've talked about it. He looks good. He looks strong. He looks like he's even impressed with how far he's come from last season. So I think it's going to be a big jump for him. But a guy like Yusei Kikuchi, who's been a little bit up and down, had a great year last year, but the year before wasn't great, as we all know. He would be the guy, I think, this season. If he came out, that's when a spot maybe could open up for one of those two. And I'd love to see either of them. Obviously, Ricky T has so much hype built around him, and I think everybody really wants to see him. And Bowden Francis, yeah, he's sort of coming into his own. He's really, I don't know if he's gotten out into the media more. I know he's done some interviews, I think, with the Gate 14 boys over there as well. And he seems like he might be a fan favorite eventually as well.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to bring up, and it is also about Ricky Tiedemann from Keegan Matheson. He says that Ricky Tiedemann looked incredible in his bullpen session today. Jose Berrios, who knows a little bit more about these things than I do, just kept chuckling and shaking his head while he watched from behind the catcher. So if you're getting a guy like Jose Berrios and Chris Bassitt excited about this stuff you're doing, you might as well, as Jays fans, get excited too. Obviously, these guys are around these guys all the time, every day. They know a lot more about baseball than we do, and I'm sure pretty much everyone listening to this does as well. Great guys to have in your corner, and if this doesn't get you excited to see a Ricky T start, I don't know what will. And speaking of that, he is starting on Saturday, opening up in the Grapefruit League against the Phillies. So that is something that we can look forward to, and we're getting really close.
I am on the edge of my seat right now. You know what? As soon as we found out that Ricky T was getting that start, I'm like, you know what? I was worried. So first of all, I looked. As soon as I knew the first game was Saturday, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's probably a Jets game. I'm probably working. No, I get Saturday off for a day to sit on the couch and watch some Blue Jays baseball on Sportsnet. I am so over the moon pumped. And then to get the news that Ricky T is going to be the starter for it too, I am just over the moon. And I know me and you've talked about it so much that we both are really, really excited to see this guy.
See, I'm hoping that the Phillies can field out some of their MLB starters, like maybe not Bryce Harper, but they can get like a Bryson Stott out there, like Alec Boehm. Like those are great guys in the MLB that have had success for the last few years. So we can get some at bats and some pitches thrown to guys that are established in the league already. I think that will be great for Ricky Tiedemann.
100% agree. I think he needs that experience against those MLB players, right? You know, there's a different, there is a jump. There is that jump from AAA or AA to the MLB. So if Ricky T can get this experience against some MLB talent, I think that's going to be huge for his development.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for everything today. Thank you guys for watching. The support you guys have given us over the last few days has been crazy. All the likes, comments, subscribers. We always appreciate everything, and we could not be doing this without you guys. You guys are helping us out a ton and making it possible for us to talk about the Blue Jays every day.
You know what? I want to give a shout out to somebody who actually hit me up on Instagram, and it was just sort of one of those things. Guys, just being nice. I'll sort of read what he said. So he gave us a little like thing just about whatever. But then he said, love the Locked On Jays podcast, and wants us to keep doing what we're doing. So I don't want to give out his personal info, but he'll know if I give him a shout out. Hopefully he's listening and stay till the end. Big shout out. We love getting those messages. You guys can hit us up on Twitter as well. Our DMs should be open, so we're happy to respond to anybody that shoots us out a message. Hopefully it's not bad, and hopefully you're not ripping us. But, if that comes to that, then it is what it is.
Hey, we'll take any comments there is. Obviously, we do like the nice comments more, but if there is some constructive criticism in the comments, we do read that and we do take that to heart. So one thing I wanted to bring up before we do head out is one more time, the Locked On 24/7 streaming channel. Whenever you guys want to digest your sports content, just head over there. Let's go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe. Just great content over there. Lots of experts covering whatever sports you guys are wanting to digest. So head over there whenever you guys have some free time.